Today we're going to talk about the number one most dangerous carb in the world, and it's not sugar. No, not even close. This carbohydrate causes a massive blood sugar spike, far bigger than table sugar, yet it isn't classified as sugar. It's a carbohydrate that can lead to type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, and insulin resistance, the doorway to diabetes. In plain terms, it wrecks your blood sugar. It promotes visceral fat, the dangerous fat that surrounds your organs. It disrupts your good gut microbes and feeds the bad ones. It's extremely inflammatory, not only in your joints, but especially in your gut. If you care about the truly bad form of LDL, the small particles that get into arterial walls, this carb will raise them fast. It's often marketed as zero sugars. It costs pennies, about 20 cents per pound, because it's subsidized. That means taxpayers essentially pay to make it cheap, so food makers can add it to everything. What's the point of this ingredient? It has no real health benefit. It's a filler used to add bulk and texture. The average person consumes between 65 and 250 pounds of it each year. That's about 21 billion pounds produced annually. You'll find it in gluten-free products, baby formula, baked goods, and many sport foods. Can you guess the carb? It's a starch, not the potato starch your grandma used, but industrial modified starch. Modified food starch, cornstarch, maltodextrin. So what is starch? Here's the simple idea. Starch is a chain of sugar molecules. When you take natural starch from a vegetable, it's a long chain with some protection. But when you modify starch in a factory, you strip away that protection and break the chain down until the bonds are weak. That makes it convert to sugar extremely fast, sometimes faster than plain glucose. When I say industrial starch, I mean the powdered stuff, highly refined, mechanically ground into tiny particles, often bleached. If you taste a spoonful, it won't be very pleasant or sweet unless you chew food like bread long enough to break the bonds and release the sugar. Let me quickly run through some of the chemicals used in this processing. You should know them. One is sodium tripolyphosphate, linked to kidney stress and vascular calcification, and possibly bone demineralization. Another is vinyl acetate, considered a possible human carcinogen. They even use sodium hypochlorite, that's bleach. Bleach is regulated in water, but not in food starch, despite links to tooth enamel damage and mucosal irritation. There's also another additive commonly used in infant formulas and beverages in excess. It may disrupt mitochondrial function. Here's the kicker. Many of these chemicals are accepted because of a self-regulated label called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. But how can something be truly safe when there are no long-term studies? That's the question. Look at a typical nutrition label. 16 grams total carbs, 1 gram fiber, 0 grams sugar. What's left? 15 grams of unlisted carbohydrate. That's why starch is invisible unless you read the ingredient list and spot words like modified food starch, modified cornstarch, or wheat starch. Industrial starch is basically extra damaged carbohydrate that clogs your system. It's directly implicated in diabetic complications, Alzheimer's plaque formation, and liver fibrosis. There's one more simple but scary fact. When starch breaks down, it can form aldehydes compounds used historically to preserve tissue. Another byproduct is the same toxin that gives you a hangover after alcohol. That's how toxic these breakdown products can be. Now, pair those starches with seed oils and heat, you get a toxic soup that damages tissues. Very few people consume refined starch alone. It's usually in chips, crackers, cereals, bread, pasta, fries mixed with seed oils and sometimes sugar. Chips are roughly 65% starch and 30% oil. Crackers and snack foods follow a similar pattern. Cereals are often 80% starch. Bread and pasta are largely starch with added oils. French fries are mostly starch with oil. The list goes on. So while we've spent years demonizing sugar, starch is eaten in much greater quantities, and in many ways, it's more harmful. I'm not bashing every starch. Home cooked potatoes or vegetable starch are different, but industrial, highly processed starches are the problem. People will say, I don't eat cornstarch, but they have products in their pantry, snack bars, pastries, processed foods that contain modified cornstarch. Even some hot dogs and processed meats list modified food starch as an ingredient used as a cheap filler. If we define food as something that sustains life and helps repair tissues, then most ultra-processed products don't qualify. They fit through legal loopholes and are still called food. That's a separate topic for another video. Most ultra-processed foods are built on three pillars: synthetic sugars, seed oils, and industrial starches. Sugar might be 20% of the calories, seed oils 35%, and starches 75%. Starch is the main calorie source in those foods. Here are some shocking consumption stats. Children get about 65% of their calories from ultra-processed foods. That's roughly 55 pounds of industrial starch per child per year. Teenagers consume about 70% of calories from ultra-processed sources, over 100 pounds of industrial starch annually. Adults average around 55% of calories from these foods, about 67 pounds of industrial starch each year. These numbers are conservative. Real intake may be higher. So yes, starch has been handed a bad reputation for good reasons. But the next video you should watch is about seed oils because they're the other half of this toxic mix. Dr. Eric Berg, the Wellness Hub Plus 50. If this helped you, share it with someone you care about and subscribe to the Wellness Hub Plus 50 for more practical health tips.